computer. All right. Hi, everybody. This is Ashley Pitzer with Practicing Life Podcast. And today I have a special guest speaker. This is Janice, and Janice is going to introduce herself. But I wanted to bring Janice on my, I almost said show, on my podcast because one, I believe in what Janice is doing. Two, I think we all know somebody who's been affected by drugs and alcohol. I would tell you actually yesterday, somebody very close to me just died from the health conditions, that doing years of drugs caused on their body. So, I mean, this is a big deal. We probably all know we're always talking about cancer, right? We're always like, somebody has died of cancer. Well, somebody has died because of drug and alcohol. And so I really believe in what Janice is doing, and we're going to hear her story, and I want to provide you all with a resource, which is her. So you guys have somebody to go to who has been through it. And we are sister souls here. We're both little yoga meditation lovelies. And anyway, I will turn this over to you all, I will turn this over to you, Janice, and let's hear it.
Well, hello, Ashley. Thanks so much for having me on your show. This is totally your show.
I should have said to everyone, Janice cracks me up. She's just naturally funny, and I really love that about her.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. And I will apologize in advance if I, use too many expletives. I'm really trying to curb that habit. So yes, hello, everybody. Thanks for having me on. My name is Janice. I am a recovering person. I'm like recovering from everything, but I was a pretty severe alcoholic and drug addict for a good part of my life, but that is not the case anymore. I did find my sobriety through the rooms of 12 steps, but I have been sort of detached from that for quite a few years now. I really use a lot of like fitness, meditation, people like Ashley, like this, sort of like spiritual self-development community to work on my recovery. And yeah, I've lost friends and family members from alcoholism and drug addiction. I just lost my nephew a little over a year ago to an accidental overdose. He was how old was he? 30, 31, 32. He was young, newly married, one-year-old son when he died. And like, I like that you mentioned how like we treat cancer, somebody comes to you, it's like, oh my God, I have cancer or whatever. And of course people are like, oh my God, that's terrible. What can I do to help? And I have found with alcoholism and drug addiction, it's like, well, what's your problem? Like, get your shit together, and it really needs to be looked at the same way. Like this is, like this is devastating lives. And I think like fentanyl is the lead cause of death from people ages like 18 to 45 or something like that, like fentanyl.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And people still want to judge, people that struggle with drugs and alcohol. So I am very passionate about this. I do, I think like my approach to it may be a little unconventional for people that are, sort of in the rigid rooms of the 12 steps. It really did. It saved my life. It really helped me. I met a lot of fantastic people, but after about 5 or 6 years in that program, I realized like there was some programming from that I needed to undo.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so let's back up a little bit, because I like to get into the nitty gritty. What was your rock bottom? What did it look like?
Oh, which one?
All right, I get that, because you go through cycles. You start to get traction and going the right direction, and I don't know if it's the same way, but at least for me with coaching, weight loss, people will make really good progress in weight loss and something will happen. And then it goes back to like, if this was their point A and they lost weight, they will go way back to here. So it will be like,
Yes.
yeah. So their rock bottom becomes a new rock bottom.
Yes, 100%. I've had a lot of really low points through my life. Excuse me. And it's funny because like the low point that got me to finally like surrender
Yes.
um uh really wasn't anything uh tragic or anything. I was like is getting ready for work. Of course, I woke up late because I just had, it's spent all my time doing drugs. Woke up late trying to get ready for work. I've got one pant leg on. My three dogs are looking at me like, "Are you going to walk us?" My apartment's a mess. My marriage is in shambles. I'm a mess. I'm in shambles. And I'm trying to get high. Like I'm like trying, I'm just like smoking weed, crushing up my pills, whatever, like trying to get high before work. And it's just kind of like, this is ridiculous. Like, what the F am I doing? And so that, it was kind of that moment I'd reach out to a couple people. And that was February of 2014. But I will backtrack a little bit. Um, so I was a pretty severe drug addict and alcoholic from, my mid 20s into my late 30s, early 40s when I got sober. But it was really, through my mid 30s that like shit got crazy. I was drinking daily, blacking out, regularly. I had seen a psychiatrist because even though I didn't make the connection that like the alcohol that I was drinking was causing my anxiety, causing my depression, causing like all this tumult in my life. I went to a psychiatrist and he's like, "Oh, well, you're bipolar and you're depressed and, you've got ADHD," and he put me on Adderall, which I had heard about Adderall, but like my ears pricked up like, I know what that is. This could be fun.
Yeah, I'm open to this.
I'm open to this. Oh, you're gonna prescribe me speed. This is amazing. Like I had to buy this in Chicago on a street corner, so now I can get it
Right.
from my doctor.
Now it's excusable.
Yeah, totally. Um, and so he prescribed me the Adderall, and he prescribed me it was like Clonopin or Ativan, which is a benzodiazepine, like Xanax, Valium,
Yeah.
whatever. And
Clonopin is what my daughter has for seizures. So
holy cats, yeah,
yeah,
it's nothing to it's not like aspirin, like it's kind of a big deal.
yeah,
um and he told me that like, well, the Adderall is going to give you a little,
perk.
energy, a little perk. So the Clonopin you're going to take at the end of the day to kind of reel
Yeah.
you back in. And I mean, my head was exploding. Like, a doctor is giving me this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, just totally addict thinking. Like, I'm not thinking about like, I'm going to heal my depression and my, like, I don't even think I have ADHD. Like, I was just like, my life was a mess because I was a drunk,
Well, and
um,
that's the point though. Doctors are treating the symptoms. They're not treating
100,
the root cause. And so all of they're seeing is, hey, at the end of the day, you have a list of these features and these features match this diagnosis. So I can give you this pill.
yeah, yeah, 100%. He never asked me about my history. Like, I mean, I think my initial appointment with him was like a half an hour long. Like, how are you going to get to the root of any of these issues in a half an hour consultation? And
Mm-mm.
like, my brain is just like, give me drugs, give me drugs. And his brain is like, I'm going to sell you some drugs. I can make some money. Right.
Gonna keep my customers satisfied.
Exactly. Um, so that I would say was kind of like, really like the wick to like the bomb that was gonna like blow my life apart. Like, it had been steadily like crumbling for a long time, and I had like periods of sobriety. I mean, I used air quotes sobriety in my life, where like I quit drinking for a couple of years, but like, I'd still like smoke a little pot or take Xanax or whatever. Never really, worked a program. But it was at that point that it was just like, everything really sped up.
Yeah, depending on
Um,
what path you take, you can still be functional. Like that's why they say functional alcoholics. They can do this for years and still be
oh yeah,
functional. But it's just this very slow step of the next step, getting a little deeper, a little deeper. But the entire time, it's like you mentally and emotionally adjust to it, and it becomes the new norm, and you don't see the progress
yeah,
where it's going.
yeah. Totally. Like, yeah, everything just gets a little worse every day. I mean, there's like, I don't know if it's like some old Buddhist quote or something like that, where it's like, if you can kill a frog slowly by like putting them in a pot of water and like turn the
Oh
heat
yeah,
up
yeah.
slowly.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of like what addiction and alcoholism is. It's like, you don't, like, you can see the craziness happening around you, in my case anyway. Like, I could see the craziness around me, but I could never like look at myself to like see my role in it. Of course I wanted to blame like my partners or my family or my work, or like, it was
Shift
I never,
responsibility. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. um so, in like, in some regards, I'm glad that of course I'm glad that it happened, because it like woke my ass up and, changed my life. But like, it got dark fast.
Yeah.
um Within a couple of years, I mean, not even a couple of years, I mean, within a year, I was going through my Adderall. Like, within a week and a half, I was crushing it and snorting it with my Clonopin, chasing it with whiskey or tequila, whatever alcohol I had. I mean, I'm divorced now, but my husband at the time, he's a great guy. I mean, he'd come home from work. He um, worked for Trader Joe's. Not that that matters, but he'd get home at like 11 o'clock at night, and I'd be like in full like drag regalia, like just at home, like,
Yeah.
wearing a boa, like full face of makeup, walking around in high heels in a total blackout. And he's like, what, what is going on with you? And I wake up the next morning, like, what happened? And yeah, like at that time, like, this was my old Facebook account, which doesn't exist anymore, thank God. But I'd be like, oh shit, what did I say? What
Yeah.
did I do?
And then a lot of people, because that's so embarrassing and shameful for them, then that just turns around and they reach for like more things to buffer with. So
Oh,
it gets in a
absolutely.
vicious cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it like caught the attention of other people. And so, like, I had these sort of DMs showing up in my account of like dudes like, hey, you look pretty fun and wild. And I was so desperate
Connected,
for
yeah.
love and attention. And I mean, I call it love and attention now, but I mean, it was just like, I was just so desperate to be healthy, but like didn't know how to do it, and was like looking everywhere else except,
Inward.
inside, like, get your shit together, Janice. So like, oh, this guy's going to solve my problem because he thinks I'm cute and funny. And so,
Yeah.
um, so
And
yeah, that,
this is like even outside of drugs and alcohol, this is how our society operates because we've been trained. I got to go into my subconscious reprogramming spiel. I have to say this all the time. I'm like, but people don't understand. The moment you are born, you are trained to look to other people to tell you, are you good enough? Are you
yes.
likable? Are you smart enough? Are you funny? You're always looking to other people for this validation. And so it's like, it doesn't, you don't even need to have an addiction of any sort. It's that in itself is an addiction.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's and I feel like this is something that has really changed my life, like in the last couple of years, like finding Jim Fortin, doing his program, like meeting all the great people like you and Mary Lou and everybody else in the group, has really like cemented that into my brain. Like, getting sober definitely like like I was on the path, I was feeling good, my life was getting better, but I still had so much like loathing toward myself. And then, because like in the 12 step, 12 step rooms, it's like, I'm Janice, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict. And like after saying that for a couple of years, I was like, this feels like an albatross around my neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Like I can't, not even that I can't, like, I don't want to drink anymore. I don't want to do, I don't want to snort my pills anymore. I don't want to, buy drugs or find drugs on the floor of a bathroom and do them.
Yeah, it's like
um,
there's no forgiveness because you constantly have to remind yourself of some shameful event, even if you've moved past it.
yes, yes. So yeah, like really like owning my worth and owning my value, understanding my value, and even just like understanding what I value has been like a super big game changer for me. Like I feel like I can go out in the world today and just, regardless of what happens, like feel pretty unaffected by it, because it's like, I know I'm good. I know I'm good. I love myself.
Mhm.
I take good care of myself. I'm in recovery today. I do want to, like, I always want to put the caveat, like I will use THC occasionally. I feel like, because there is some stuff that's stuck from AA, like rigorous honesty is one of them. And so I do feel like I like to put that out there, because I don't want to be like, I'm trying to hide anything. Um, but like that was never my drug of choice. Like it was alcohol, speed, and pills,
Mm.
So excuse me. But like, yeah, I just feel like my life today is, I just move through it with so much more ease and so much more grace and so much more like, acceptance and understanding, that like even in, 5 years into my sobriety, working a program, working with a sponsor, reading all the books, giving it up to God, as they say, like I was still like, why the F do I hate myself? Like I still, like, I don't like who I am. I don't like, like what's going on or whatever. Um, and I think like one of the big changes in that for me was, which I mean, I could go on a whole nother like tangent about CrossFit, but like when I like really found CrossFit, got dedicated into it, and started coaching a class for people in recovery. Like I was the coach where I was the coach, coaching people in recovery. And like that's where I learned, like, you know, let's drop this, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict. Like let's call ourselves, a sober person in active recovery, or something to that effect. Now I just say like, I'm Janice and I'm a person that chooses to live a life of recovery.
Yeah. And I'm going to
So
tie this back into cancer because I already went there once, right? Because a lot of people who have had cancer and they no longer have cancer, there's this big thing about they don't want to call themselves a survivor, right? Because then that's constantly living in that energy and putting them in
yes,
that place. And so they may change it to like, I'm a thriver, or I'm a, like you're saying, I'm a person who had. So it's all about that whole identity contents. And like, that's what you're saying. Like, you were like, no, I'm not going to constantly berate myself
yes,
and call myself a name to label myself this way. I'm going to choose to empower myself. And I love the fact
yes,
that you're essentially saying that you came to a point where you decided that you have the authority to decide that you're worthy. Like, yes,
yes,
yes, yes, yes.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. And which is, yeah, just been a huge game changer. So
yeah, and we'll start
yeah.
off with this CrossFit because like this was your turning point. So, I mean, I've gotten to know Janice over the years. Just to backtrack a little bit, I probably should have said this at the beginning of the episode, but Janice and I met through a program called TCP. And Jim Fortin is the coach of this, the mentor for all of us. But it was such a beautiful community because it doesn't matter what you're facing or what you're dealing with. We were all in the personal development, wanting to have a better life. And so everybody of all different, places, situations, group, whatever, could come to this one place and get coached together, and we all became friends. So even though I may never have had a drug and alcohol addiction, I still was able to connect with Janice and see her story and know her, and like likewise, she was able to see me and see my struggles with perfectionism, which I'm always coaching on. So because I want people to have a better life. Um, and so, and I got to see Janice, turn everything around, and it's super exciting to see that. And so yeah, Janice went into CrossFit and started teaching other people because she found like through trial and error, she found something that worked for her, and what works for you may work for somebody else. And so now you're like building this whole business to help people who have been there, done that, and want something better, specifically
Yes.
in this avenue. So it started with CrossFit. So let's go. What was that like? Well, because you first probably came in, I'm going to imagine that you first probably came in just to learn it for yourself, not because somebody modeled this is a way of healing for you.
No, no. I I had two girlfriends that were talking about it. My one girlfriend, Melissa, she'd been into it for a couple of years, quite a few years before I got into it. And just listening to what she had to say about it, seeing the changes, not only in her physical body, but just like mentally, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And this was when I was in like the throes of my addiction. And I remember like Googling, CrossFit gyms in my area. I was like, oh my God, this is really expensive. And then I'm like looking up the workouts. I don't know like 90% of what they're talking about. So then I Googled what burpees are, and I was like, that looks miserable. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to like run on the treadmill and do some yoga. Like, this is not my jam. And then fast forward a few years, I'm in recovery at this point, and I was working with a girlfriend of mine, Steph, and at the time I was and like again, I'm in recovery, and I'm dating somebody who is wildly abusive, like physically, sexually, mentally. So yeah, like just because I got sober, like I was still making terrible decisions.
Well, that was still your known. That was still
Yes,
your known, that was still your familiar. So even though you did the work internally, it takes a long time for the external environment to match the internal environment.
yes, 100%, 100%. And again, because I still like like if I went into sobriety, like absolutely hating myself at, 2 years sober, I was like, well, I don't want to kill myself anymore. So that's a good thing. But I wasn't like in love with myself. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's part of
so
healing.
yeah, yeah, totally. So it's like, they show the line. It's not like this upward trajectory. It is
No,
like,
you totally want it to be linear.
yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
Sometimes you do take two steps back, and that is part of the journey.
Yes, 100%. And sometimes you free fall, but so yeah, I was working with my girlfriend Steph, who she was really into CrossFit and telling me about it, and she was showing me some videos on her phone, and she was doing a snatch. Now, Melissa and Steph are amazing, wonderful women, but like, they didn't look like I mean, if
Bodybuilder.
anybody's bodybuilders, like if you think of like CrossFit athletes like Tia Claire Toomey or Sage Bergner or whatever, if anybody knows who they are, but they weren't like these big muscly bodybuilding women. Like they looked like me, right? Like just
Mhm.
average. But I was like, wow, that is amazing. So I don't even know what the weight was on her barbell, but to see her do like a full,
Yeah,
Olympic snatch, like catching it in the squat, I was like,
yeah,
I want to do that.
yeah. And
um,
I'll just put a side comment in here because as somebody who's taught fitness for years and still a personal trainer, right? Like I see this a lot where if you can get somebody to work on their body and feel strong in their body, it starts to strengthen their mind, and like it starts to triple out things because there's a connection between your mind and your body. So maybe your mind can't get there first, but your body can lead the way.
Yes.
And that's what I see. I see this quite often, like you're saying CrossFit, but it can be a different form of exercise.
Oh yeah.
Like it can even be something like yoga, like it's gentle. It can be something like running. But when you get into the part where you start training your body, it can help shift everything with your mind. And I particularly like weightlifting for women because here we go on my feminist stuff. We live in a society where women are, told to be submissive, and that they have to look for their approval to other people, and that they're the helper, and so lifting weights makes you empowered physically, and that can
100%.
change everything on your external world. So I mean, CrossFit is not gonna, I mean, can I do a snatch? Yes. It's not my forte, but I
Yeah.
totally love it when people go to that direction, whatever it may be, because it's still creating such dynamic effects in the body. Then
Yes.
and that helps your
Yes.
mind.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely.
when you get
My,
in the zone, when you get in the zone, do you not feel clarity at that point?
oh yeah. I'm going to share this story because this is like, this was the game changer for me. Like, I feel like this was more of all the rock bottoms I had in my life. Like, I've also had some like, you know,
Yeah, moments to
peak.
raise you up.
Exactly. And so I found this CrossFit gym. I was going for a couple of weeks, like, learning everything. And like, there's a few movements that I picked up pretty easily because like, when I was a kid, I was a gymnast, I was a dancer, not great, by the way, like just for fun after school programs. Like, I just want to clarify that. But um, so there was some things that like I figured out pretty quickly. But I was maybe like 3 weeks into going, 3, 4 times a week. And the skill was rope climbs. I've never climbed a rope in my life, ever. And so the coach was like, and of course, this old Janice is like, I can't climb a rope. I've never climbed a rope. You want me to climb that rope? Like, no. And he's like, no, I'm going to show you how to do it. It's all in your legs. And I was like, what? So he sat me down on the box, showed me how to wrap my legs. And you get the rope wrapped around your feet. You kind of pull your knees up and, stand yourself up out of the bottom. I climbed the rope. I mean, immediately, like climbed, I think it was 10 feet, but like, I swear to God, Ashley, at the top of that rope, I could have been up there for 20 minutes, but I'm sure it was only like a few seconds. But like, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? With this guy, with like, look what I can do. Like, I
Yeah,
just learned this.
a
What
sense of
else?
achievement. Yeah.
Achievement, power, like,
Yes.
my self-esteem. I was like, oh my God, I'm way more powerful than I think. Like, I'm
Yeah.
stronger than I think. Um, and so that was like, that was sort of the defining moment. I'm like, that's it. I'm never quitting CrossFit. Like, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. And I think that was like, early December or something like that, 2016. And by January 2017, like after the last fight that I got into with this dude I was dating, like I knew it was a physical fight, and I could feel like just that little bit of strength that I gained, like pushing him off me. I was like,
Yeah,
oh my
go
God,
you.
like I don't have to deal with this shit anymore. And I was like,
Yeah.
get out of my house. Don't ever call
Yeah.
me again. Like, just disappear into the void, you piece of garbage, whatever. And I'm saying that to him, but then like I also think I'm saying it like to the old Janice, like,
Yeah.
your time is done. You're powerful, you're strong, like you can make an impact in your life. And like, and as I've been doing that, like now I'm like, I would love to make an impact in other people's lives too, um so like that's been, the last year or so, like that's kind of been more of my focus. I had the class that I was coaching at my gym for my friends in recovery and stuff like that.
So back it
um
up so the audience can understand. So like what Janice did was that she saw CrossFit was really beneficial to her and her recovery and her self-love and her healing. So she started volunteering teaching people specifically, like if you were recovering from drugs or alcohol, you could go and take CrossFit with Janice for free, and she would help not only train you, but be there as a mentor and support for you and whatever you were experiencing in your life around those topics.
Yes, yes. Which, and I really, really enjoyed it. But right now we've had a lot of change in the last couple of months in our lives. So I'm at a new gym. I'm hoping I can start offering this class at my new gym. I have to talk to him about it. But yeah, I mean, just the feedback that I got from, like a lot of the people that were coming were like people that I knew from 12 step. I did, I attracted this one woman, Amanda, who, I mean, we became fast friends, and, we're so close today. She lives in Georgia now. But, I mean, she came in kind of in a very similar, similar way, like, in a terrible marriage, very abusive. She tried committing suicide, that sort of thing. I mean, she came in so broken, and I've been there. Like, I don't even know how many times I've tried to off myself in the past and had been hospitalized for it. So, I mean, like, we had a really deep connection with like trauma, pain, and
Mhm.
that sort of thing. But we were both like ready to, like, okay, like, we have this trauma and pain. I get it. Like, we're going to work through this together and figure it out. And, I mean, she tells me every day, not every day, but like every time I talk to her, like, you have no idea what you and your class did for me. I mean, she's crushing it now. She's got a beautiful place in Georgia. She's got a new job. Um, she's deeply Christian. She's like very connected to her church. She's like doing speaking engagements for churches now. I mean, she's just to see the transformation that she's gone through. And she always like, she just turns a lot of it back to me, like, yeah, like, you were a huge part of this.
You
And
were
to
a
be honest,
catalyst.
like, yeah, yeah. And like, to hear that is, of course, I'm like, oh, stop it. What did I do? I'm still not great at taking compliments, but like, but I mean, because I had the same transformation, and because her and I were able to like work together and work through a lot of that stuff, like, she really helped me come out of my show, because I still, was just coaching from like a small place, like, hey guys, you ready to do this? Like, and she's like, dude, you have power, like, you have this energy
Right.
that, you need to like shine it, like, let it shine, let it out, quit, because I mean, I just did it a little while ago, like, like I do CrossFit, but I'm like, I'm not great at it. I just enjoy doing it. Right. But she's like, no, like, who cares if you're not great at it? Like, you found your thing, it makes you stronger and it makes you help other people. So let that be the narrative, not,
Yeah, and this is something I see quite frequently where people they have something that they know that they can make an impact on, but they get into this, but I'm not the number one. Like I have to be up there, and they have this perception that keeps them stuck. And like for instance, I'm writing a book, right? But if I let the fact that grammar is not my specialty, I do not know the grammar rule, I would never get this book out to the world. And this book is so freaking amazing. Amazing. And like that's just it. Like there's these concepts that you have to let go of. And a lot of people, what do they say? Like, you don't do blah, you'll be a teacher. Like, I don't know what the saying is. That's why I'm like, blah, blah, blah. But
oh, oh
that's
yeah,
the whole point, right? Like,
those who can't do teach, or those who can't
yeah.
do coach, or yeah.
Yeah, because like a lot of times the coaches aren't the ones who are the most talented, because if they were the most talented, they would be off doing the performance.
They'd be
Your
competing, yeah.
yeah, your talent is in how you connect to people and how you are the catalyst. Like that is your talent.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what I enjoy getting out of it. I mean, of course I do like to push myself, but like, I love seeing the way especially the other women at my gym, the new gym that I'm at, the old gym that I came from, like, just to see what those women can do is really inspiring. And, when I first started, it was like, I'll never be like that. And I just had to be like, no, this is your source of inspiration. These are your friends. You know these people. Ask them how they did it. Ask them, like, how did you get from point A to point B? How did you get to be able to do, 30 unbroken strict pull-ups, which, like I still can't do, well, whatever. um, and, just kind of like reframing like the meaning that I'm putting on things. And like that was a big, again, another big catalyst for me. And so like I that's what I would like to be. I don't want this to sound corny or like that's what I would like to be for other people. Like I would love for another 40 some odd year old woman who might be struggling with, drinking, drugs, doom scrolling. I mean, really, there's like no shortage of things for us to be addicted to. It doesn't have to be drugs and
Right.
alcohol.
Right.
Right.
Like mindless perfectionism. Totally get it.
Yeah, totally. I feel like it's all sort of rooted in the same, the same neural pathways, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what I would like to be for other people. It's just like, hey, you're stuck. You feel like you can't put this down. Like let's get to the root of the issue and like, try to break you out of this. And like, yeah, I don't think that like, oh, CrossFit's gonna save your life and like whatever, but like it's all part of the puzzle, and I feel like that's what I felt like was lacking in my, I always feel like I have to say in my experience with 12 step was like, that just felt like the puzzle. And the more I sort of like grew in my recovery, I was like, there's so many more pieces to all the traumas that I've experienced, like not only just with drugs and alcohol, but just like trauma throughout my life and how I grew up and my family and all that. And like putting that whole mosaic together to kind of like, oh, this now it all makes sense, like where these behaviors are coming from and where these thought patterns are coming from and where I hold myself back and where, that sort of thing. But like, if I could be a piece of that puzzle for somebody else, like that's what I would like.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go in two different directions. So bear with me. So
Yeah.
one part of this is what I'm hearing, and I believe this to be true, just in general, is that part of your recovery. It wasn't just finding this CrossFit activity, but it was also the community. So you had the community of what you created in CrossFit. You had the community of TCP, the group that we were on, as far as something social network. Um,
Yes. Like
but
a healthy
that
social network.
right. That was just it, because you needed to have your external environment start to shift in a new direction. So I wanted to make sure that was spotlighted for people so that they're listening, and if they are sitting here struggling, if you are somebody right now who is struggling with something in your life, like here's a tip that's been, communicated to you, is find the people that you want to do, be like, do like, go in that direction.
Yes.
And then the other thing I want to, point out to people is like Janice has been there. Okay. And not only has she been there, but she's also been working for a period of time now, helping other people get through this. So if you've gone through the 12-step process and maybe you've backslid, or maybe it didn't work out for you, or maybe you didn't agree with it, or maybe you've been in it in a really long time, like Janice was, but then you were still struggling with, I love myself. Even though I'm going to put this, like, even though Janice is here to help recovery, she's really, what she's saying is that she's like a coach. She's a coach that can help you. So let's go to this point now. Like, you've identified who you can help, you know? So let's go to how would you help them? What does it look like? I'm coming to you. I've gotten off of drugs. I'm still struggling with alcohol. I get binge drunk all the time. I black out. Help me. Like, what would you offer me?
um well, what I was trying to create or have created or whatever is I've been calling it functional recovery. I'm still not married to that, whatever. But I've sort of took the tenets of CrossFit, which is constantly varied, functional movements performed at high intensity. But I've sort of manipulated it to sort of fit like that broader like healing perspective. Functional, like functional tools performed at dedicated intensity. Oh God, now I can't remember.
It's so funny when you get
Yay.
on the spot, what happens to your brain?
Right?
Yes.
Powering down. But anyway, what I think has been a boon for me is like finding all of the different tools in recovery. So,
Yeah, your
it
tool
could,
book is stacked.
my
You've
tool
got
like
them
my,
all.
I have them all. So like, even though like I'm not part of a 12-step program anymore. Like if somebody feels like they need that or they want that, any sort of recovery community. The recovery community that I really connected with was Refuge Recovery, which is more Buddhist based. Um, it they're not as easy to find. I mean, there's an AA meeting like every hour of the day. It seems like. I really liked Refuge Recovery. I sort of identify more with like that Eastern thought, Eastern philosophy.
I guess I can
But
do
yeah,
yoga, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. There's even I think it's called 12 YSR or something like that, or YSR 12, which
Oh,
is kind
okay.
of taking the 12-step program and marrying it with yoga.
Yeah.
Which again, you can find it online. And I don't love like I like meeting in person in a group. So that is why I liked going to meetings and stuff. Like I did like that fellowship and that community. But like, yeah, finding some kind of, small recovery community that you are comfortable with. Moving your body every day, I think, is huge. And it like you said, Ashley, it doesn't have to be CrossFit, but some sort of movement, meditation, quiet time, journaling, writing. I mean, it's so funny because it's like it all sounds like, well, yeah, like this is stuff like a lot of people do every day anyway. But like when you put your focus on, when I'm in my meditations, whether I'm doing a guided meditation or I'm just like meditating with, my own quiet time, and really investigating like what feelings are coming up, and working through what is there. I mean, I feel like my default has always been like chaos or sadness or destruction or whatever, and that definitely feels like it's not not as strong as it used to be, but it does still show up. I was triggered recently. I hate that word. I was triggered recently. Somebody said something to me and it just kind of struck me, and like I carried it with me for a couple of days. And when I was sitting in my meditation, and it was just like I gotta, like, it's not about them, it's not about the other person, it's like, why is this like affecting me so much? And just coming to the realization that's just like, even though I've done a lot of work on my inner child and like the wounded little girl that lives inside, like she's much better, but still, something will happen where I'll still be like, oh, I don't like that, or I didn't like the way
Yeah.
that felt, you know what I mean?
And but the
And
point is that's probably always going to happen.
oh
Just
yeah,
agree.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. um but kind of like sitting
Now
with
you
it,
have the
and
tools to get through it
yeah,
so much faster.
exactly. So like rather than being sort of dragged around by my thoughts and emotions that are almost never correct, especially in like in those circumstances, I feel like now I'm able to acknowledge it, sit with it, release it, and just it's kind of like, okay, well that's gone now. And I still see it in, I see it in my family a little bit, like with all the work that I've done. I do sort of like, now I can see like my mom's patterns. I love my mom, she's amazing, she's 35 years sober, but like when I talk to her, she's still very like be careful driving. Oh, there's chemicals where you work. Be careful. I mean, I'm like, have you always been this worried? You're my baby. I'm like, I am 47, Ma. Like, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take a breath. It's okay. We're all okay. And
Yeah.
it like, so I feel like because of the work that I've done in the last couple of years, and again with knowing and working with friends like you and everything, it's like I can see like, oh, well, look at that's where I got my anxiety from. That's it's
Yeah, and I was actually gonna say, just coaching tip, coaching moment for my audience anyway. I'm not necessarily you, but like, right, part of my job is educating people. I mean, I consider myself a teacher. I call myself a coach, but I'm a teacher too. So, emotions that come up today are from conditioned thoughts in the past. So
yes,
everything that comes up for you today as an emotion is based on something that you have been conditioned to feel when you get this thought. So that's why emotions sometimes aren't always relevant. Um,
yes,
and it's hard sometimes to teach people this because like part of what I do in my personal life, my personal belief is joy is my compass. So I'm always going to joy. Well, that's also based on past things. So as I grow and shed more layers like a snake does, like, and I get more and more into my like a true inner self, you will see what brings me joy today may be so different than 20 days ago, you know?
yes,
And so anyway, whatever emotions are coming up for you right now is based on the past. And like Janice is saying, like some of the things that are going to come up for you is going to be like that anxiety just from making these changes and it being unknown. And that may cause you to go back to what is familiar because that's what you know.
yes. Yeah, yeah. There is a line in the big book that I still really like it. There's a certain sense of security in the familiar. And yeah, like what has always been familiar for me, from my past has always been, struggle, chaos,
Mhm.
secrets, mistrust, like, and like even in the it'll be not well in February, it'll be 9 years that I have been free of alcohol and hard drugs. Woo!
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, like that's still like out of 47 years of life, like, yeah, that's a good long time, but it's like, it does take time to undo that stuff. And I think like, having awareness, and not just like awareness of your surroundings, or like just that self-awareness, and like really feeling those triggers, feeling in your body like where you know like, oh, they said something that rubbed you the wrong way. It's like I could feel it in my chest or in my belly. And
Mhm.
it's before I would let it again like just tear me down, where now I can kind of like put my hand on it, breathe into it, and sort of investigate it more. And it's, like you sort of think it through. I mean, there's another line in the 12 steps, like think the drink through. If you want to, if you did want to think or drink whatever, like where is that going to lead you? And
Mhm.
I kind of look at like, my triggers or whatever, like anything that sort of upsets me, like I kind of approach it the same way, like think this through, like why is this affecting me? Why do I feel like this is, why do I feel offended or angry or sad or whatever? And, come to find out it's because like, oh, I was bullied on the playground when I was a little kid. And then,
Yeah.
this is exactly what that feels like, rather than like, oh, I'm going to beat that guy's ass, or whatever.
Yeah.
So like awareness for me, like, that awareness of mind is so, it's just so important, because I feel like that's where a lot of growth comes from, and like getting past a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. You really can't make change without awareness.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
that really is kind of the first step to all the change. Okay, so I really want to quickly touch on the fact that you are now certified as a meditation coach or something along
Yes.
that lines. So
Yes.
what other certifications, what other, we know your history that qualifies you to do this. You've got the training, you're working with people. So what, you know, I keep bringing it back to like, what do you offer? What do you bring to people?
Um, so well, I have my like a meditation certification, life coaching certification, CrossFit level 1, yoga. um, so you know what I think what I bring to people is like just, I mean, I guess in a physical sense, I'm a coach.
I
But
see
I
that.
almost, what's that?
I said, I see that.
Yeah. But I would say like, you know, I'm more of like a mentor, you know, and again, in AA, they call the sponsor. I mean, I like mentor because it's like, I don't ever want to, like I like working with people with like with where they're at, and you know I don't want to come from this place of like you know like
Mhm.
you know on some level with all the experiences that I've had, like you know on some level I can connect with people, and if, you know if we can sort of have that um you know like that sort of rapport with each other. So I mean, I haven't really worked with anybody where I've like created a whole like meditation workout thing for them. That is like something I would be willing to do if they were interested in it. But yeah, I mean, if somebody wanted to reach out to me, just like to just even get started, like I'm a drunk and I need to fix this. How do I get started? You know, like I'm happy to share resources, work with them myself. You know, if you know, find a community, maybe if they wanted to meet with people like where they live, if they're not in Wisconsin or Illinois, you know, do the research to like, you know, find a you know group of people for them to meet up with, that sort of thing. Yeah, so
Yeah, and that's
if
when
that
you
makes
know
sense.
people are truly passionate about what they do. You know, when they're saying to you, you don't have to go to me, but I can help you. Like, and
Yeah,
here's what I'm willing to do. Like, you know that they just want you to have a better life. And they're
yeah,
not necessarily in it for what they can gain. Like that's such a huge thing.
yeah.
So and I just wanted to ask really quickly because I know we're at the top of the hour. So you were putting to I think I saw on social media you were putting together some type of like launch package, right, for a program?
I was, but had that has sort of been put on the back burner.
But that's something
So
people can look out for the future.
100%, 100%. And yeah, like, you know, if people listen to this and they feel like they want to reach out to me, like they can absolutely reach out to me on, you know, Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And you know, we can sort of work at a grassroots level.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
You know, Janice has moved, you know, cross states and is, you know, resituating in a new life. And
yes.
so, yeah, I know that that can change your business plans. So
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
definitely follow her though and watch out because she has created, from what I can tell, on this is my viewpoint as just an average person, she has put together a customized, you know, program that is going to benefit you with all, I mean, like I know that she's gone and studied different things. I know that she is because of all the I've been following her for a while. So I know that she's put together something very unique and custom and she's been there and she's already like helping people from the heart level. She's got it.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate it, Ashley. Thank you. Yeah, my schedule will be changing again here in a couple of weeks with my regular, you know, 3D world job.
Mhm.
But that once my schedule changes again there, which should be in the next few weeks, I'm going to have my mornings to really focus on, you know, what I'm, you know, what I want to build for people, like in my passion. Because I like, unfortunately, I'm still at a place in my life where I have to work a job. Um,
And that's
so
where almost all life coaches start out with. So anybody listening, all life coaches usually take 2 to 3 years to build their business and they're
yes,
maintaining two jobs and then they can switch over. I mean, it's
yeah,
very common in this world. It's not like you're a
Yes.
dentist and you get certified and you create the building and then within 6 months you have 100 clients.
Yeah, totally, totally. So, but yeah, I like it's been like the last few months have been a little chaotic, but like and this is where the whole like TCP and everything has just been amazing because it's like the habits that I created for myself, I'm still, I'm still
Using.
doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And like even with all this change, like I'm still, showing up, the best that I can and doing what's right for me and helping whomever I can. So
I love
it's
it.
coming together. It's coming together. So keep your eyes peeled and yeah,
All right. Well,
shit will get going.
I will have in the show notes the way that you can get a hold of Janice if you would like to ask her questions, if you think that there's somebody out there that needs to hear this, whatever it may be, we'll have some notes in the show notes. But I want to touch really quickly because just I like to get your takeaway points for the audience. So some of the things that I wrote down that I heard Janice say for tips that you can take away today and put in your life right now is part of recovery. Wherever you are at in your journey, part of recovery is getting a community, moving your body, getting into a place where you can have the self-awareness of what you are feeling, what is going on. And then another step to that is to release it. Some of the ways that Janice suggested releasing it is through meditation, sitting in quiet time. Those are two different things, by the way. I'm just
Yes.
letting the audience know that they accomplish two different things, even though they look the same. Um,
Yes.
Journaling was another thing that she listed. And then the last point was just think it through. So get into the habit of when you get to that, I have self-awareness, I'm feeling something happening in my body. And then you're getting into that, I'm willing to release it in that investigation stage. She's telling you to look at the long-term consequences of whatever action that you're doing, not just the short-term situation that you're facing.
Yes.
So those are
That's
some of
awesome, Ashley.
the takeaway points from Janice, which I really appreciate you being on the show. And I know it will help a lot of people. If anything, it will help people just feel like they can breathe, knowing that they can go to somebody who's been there, that's not going to judge them, that has resources to be able to help them.
Yeah, and it's in recovery is possible for anybody. I mean, it's work. There's work involved. It's not magic. It's it's not a
Not a
magic
magical
pill.
pill.
Like I've taken all the magic pills and they didn't work. Like
Great.
it
It's
takes
true.
this work.
I know.
So
All right. Is there anything that you
awesome.
wanted to leave off with, or is that what you want to leave off with, that it's possible?
Yeah, no, it's possible. And I can't thank you enough for having me on here. I think you're a beautiful soul, Ashley. I
Thank
love that our
you.
paths have crossed. I love that we're curly sisters.
Right.
Curly witch sisters. No, I really appreciate you for having me on. This has been great. And I love you and I
Oh,
love seeing you grow.
same here. All right, I'm going to sign off to you guys. I will see you next week, and you matter.